You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Mark Filipe.
What's going on, man?
Mark, tell me a little bit about yourself and if you want, what you do professionally or just whatever you're interested in.
Well, right now I'm working at a bank. Not really what I want to be doing, but I'm an aspiring voice actor, and I've been doing work on the side for a little less than a year now. And most of the stuff that I do is mainly just character work.
Okay, when we say voice acting now, what characters are we talking about here? Okay, because I'm interested in voice acting. I can do impressions, and sometimes I piss off a lot of people in that are ever really around me because I can't stop doing them.
Yeah, I understand. A lot of my friends feel the same way about me. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I've been casted for is just doing the voice of Wolverine. It's pretty similar to, I guess people they think it's similar to Steve Bloom's. Mine is just something that I've created over the years after hearing, different voice actors like Cal Dodd, Steve Bloom, and then hearing Hugh Jackman in the live action films. I do a lot of deep, scary voices, stuff like that. Southern accents, like all sorts of different kinds of accents. Most of the stuff that I do is the Wolverine voice, but I do a lot of work for just my own voice, just acting, which is much easier because I don't have to strain my voice too much.
And you don't have to take a freaking lozenge before.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what have you exactly been casted in just to play Wolverine? Like anything that some people might particularly know?
Most of the stuff is just fan stuff. So a lot of audio comics that people are still working on right now, and they'll probably just be on YouTube.
I'm actually trying to get you hooked up with my buddy who was on my podcast a long time ago. His name's the Comic Syndicate. But I was trying to get him because I'm super interested in voice acting. A lot of people look at it like you're just goofing off. It's like it takes a skill, okay? It's a muscle to be able to like. I think there's very few people in this world that can be able to recreate something like that. Like
Yeah,
impressions are difficult. You have to learn I was like my whole family's musically talented. So I just didn't fall in that range. I just don't have an interest for it. But when it comes to singing, I can match a certain singer's pitch and a certain tone, like a copycat. And that's what I think a lot of what impressions are. You're copycatting something you've seen before. Like for me, if I see somebody or hear somebody do something, I can try and figure out the octaves and pitch to be able to match that.
yeah, and that's a very difficult skill in of itself. So, I mean, a lot of people don't realize the work that goes behind it. People just think, oh, you're speaking into a microphone. It's not the same as on-screen acting. If anything, I mean, I feel it's a little bit more difficult because you're trying to portray all these emotions, and you're not showing your face, so you don't get that advantage of being able to look sad or look angry. You have to portray that without actually showing it. um,
Such as adding like more bass to your voice.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be able to act in order to voice act. If you just do voices and impressions, you won't get very far. Being able to have that voice is great, but if you don't have that basis of being able to really bring out that emotionality when you're doing, a character work for a show or for a game or even for a commercial, because you really got to have emotionality for some of the commercial spots and radio spots and stuff like that. You got to be able to have that. And if you don't, like I said, you won't get very far.
Yeah, my family, like both my parents were broadcasters, and what I started to notice just being around them so much, like when I hear like my mom or my dad speak, I'm like, "Where's your broadcaster voice?" They're like, "What?" I'm like, "You have a broadcaster voice when you're on the radio, but when you're here, it's not your normal voice." And my dad's been doing it for like almost 50 something years. So when it comes to his voice, he just is like, in the beginning, I just decided I'm just going to use my regular voice because that's the same thing I did with my podcast. Like for me, podcasting, I had two decisions to make in front of me. Do I want to make my voice like this, where I go like, "You're listening to 93.5, and like go that route with it, like which a lot of podcasters do, but it seems not authentic. And I'm like, I'm going to be having really long conversations, hopefully, with people. And I want to be able to not have to think about holding a pitch or holding a certain tone in my voice. So I'd rather just talk normally. If it sounds like balls being dragged across shattered glass, then I'm apologize for all of you people out there.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, even now with a lot of the commercial work, which I don't really do, I like to get into it. It's just a lot more to me. It's a lot more difficult. But for the commercial work, they don't want the radio announcer voice anymore. Now they want more like a John Krasinski in the E Trade commercials. That's what they want. He does all those. They want like a normal, average Joe, kind of guy, just talking, like you would talk to somebody on the street, to a buddy, to a friend, to whatever. They want that natural tone now. They don't want someone coming in with the radio voice like you just said.
Well, I think for so many years during commercials, we've been trying to, when we sell something, to grab somebody's attention. And for us, grabbing somebody's attention is with a really, really strange voice that no one really's ever heard of from I guess before. Such as like Morgan Freeman or something like the guy from like the Allstate, you know, buy insurance now. Like that deep bass to it where it's like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to buy this insurance because that guy sounds like a respectable man and he probably could kill me with his bare hands.
Yeah.
And then we're getting to this thing now where you're starting to see people like, I use Rogaine because Rogaine's fun. It helps keep my hair in, even though I get rectal bleeding and all these. And they just list off all these side effects. You're like, damn, I don't even want to take the drug anymore. But it's like, it's an average voice now, and I think that's what really kind of sparks up something. It makes it more relatable to people. Makes it sound like someone's just talking to you rather than paying for some high paid actor that's definitely probably not taking the product.
Yeah, and the whole industry itself has just changed, especially for on the commercial aspect. The character aspect is pretty much stay the same. Just now, when it comes to character work, most people, I mean, I guess maybe 10, 15 years ago, people would think, oh, I got to go to LA. That's where all the character work is. Now, a lot of people do stuff from home. If you have a good enough studio at home, you can do stuff for overseas. I mean, I know a lot of people that they do a lot of work, for like English productions, Spanish productions, stuff like that. And they're looking for American voice actors to either do a dub or just for some of their commercials where they want, you know, something American. They don't want like the typical actors that they have there. Um, you just have to be able to find that work. That's the only thing. When it comes to online work, you got to be careful about where you go because there's certain places that are just going to try to take advantage of you, or they're not professional, or anything like that. I'm not going to name the places because I don't want to bash anybody, but there's definitely some places where they don't know how it's supposed to be.
Well, even like you were saying before too, with the emotion that kind of gets that you have to really kind of show that doesn't really get shown, just because you're hearing somebody's voice, but you have to show those features. If you ever look at someone that's podcasting, like for me right now as I'm podcasting, I'm also kind of eyebrows forward, kind of talking to you like I'm getting into the conversation. Um, it displays a different effect into your voice, which a lot of people don't really realize. Like if you're having a conversation or if you're doing an acting position, you have to act a voice act. You can't just sit there and be able to crank out an Eddie Murphy voice with a straight face. You have to do the motions of it. You have to do the gestures of the face, the angles of the mouth, the chin, all these types of things, be able to get into that position. Even when you're doing like Al Pacino, or if you're doing, a nice Don Corleone, you disrespect me. The business is good. Even doing that, I had to move my jaw forward and like kind of push my lips up together, like if I had peanut butter on the stuck of the roof of my mouth or something.
Yeah, that's what a lot of these the voices that a lot of people do. Your face really changes, and you probably wouldn't want to see that on screen anyway. So it kind of works that you're behind a microphone inside a booth. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a full body thing. I mean, especially with a lot of the Wolverine work that I do, he's an angry, angry guy. So if he's gonna have a scene where he gets into that berserker rage, I gotta have space to move. When I'm stabbing somebody or something like that, I'm doing that movement. And if you don't, then it's really not gonna be genuine.
Yeah, well, like if you saw Wolverine when he was training for the movies, he was basically in like on a treadmill or one of those free mobile things, so with like a circle around his waist where he could walk around and he just wouldn't go anywhere. He would just stay in position, but it was like a movable treadmill that would go at all angles. And he would look at the screen, so when he'd start running, he'd be screaming and running, and they'd use that voice because you could hear the pounding in his voice from him running. If he was sitting in a booth, how hard it would be to recreate that. Like what really is fascinating about voice acting is it does create a bit of what I would call imposter syndrome, mostly because people are just hearing your voice and they match it up to that character. And then like it's hard to be like, I'm the voice of that person. And it's like, I don't believe you. Like, there's no way you're that person. It's like, but that is me. That is my voice. And it seems like people are just loving the voice, but never really truly loving your face. Like a lot of people for a long time didn't know that Bart Simpson's character was played by a girl.
Oh yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah, I mean it's just it's different when you're on screen and you get to show your face, you get a different kind of celebrity status. Voice actors don't have that status. You know what I mean? To me, some of the voice actors that I know, like Steve Bloom or Cal Dodd or a variety of other actors, to me, I would know them and I could probably pick them out, but the average person may not know who the hell they are. That's just it's different from when you're on screen and when you're behind the microphone.
Yeah. I do have to ask now. When we say, what do you prefer to do, impressions or accents?
Impressions or accents? Um, I'm gonna be honest. I don't do many impressions. I create characters. So when people ask if I can do, like some other, MCU characters, like, oh, can you do a, Captain America, like Chris Evans, Captain America? It's like I could probably sound like somebody that could be Captain America, but it's not going to be Chris Evans. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So my whole thing is I want to create voices that are my own and characters that are my own because in reality, my voice is the thing that's going to sell. That's my product. So I don't want to try to sound like everybody else because there's a lot of people out there that do impressions. And if that's what I'm going to be known for, then I might not get that far. I may get, a good amount of, work from, oh, you can do this, you can do that. I know like, I don't know if you ever heard of him. His name is Joe Gaudette. He has the best Arnold Schwarzenegger impression I have ever heard in my entire life. He sounds just like the guy and he's gotten work for it. But at the same time, you don't want to be known as just the Arnold Schwarzenegger guy. You know what I mean? You want to be known as a genuine professional voice actor. And the guy is a professional voice actor, but a lot of people only really know him for his impressions.
that always seems like the main one that's like a really easy impression as well too. Like just Arnold's, I guess, range or pitch is something that a lot of people can hit. It's different, I guess, for everybody, but it seems like the majority when I see an impression on the internet or something, it's usually somebody doing an Arnold impression, like, "Oh, we have to go, get in the chopper," like that whole. It's that whole like basis is always that, and it's really really peculiar when you see like now it was common with those guys that were doing cartoon voices. They were like, "How many can you do in 60 seconds? How many can you do in this?" And it's like a lot of them sound really, really close. But I understand what you mean about not fully copying somebody's voice, but being able to make it in your own unique way. Like for your Wolverine example, that one sounds like Wolverine. I don't know. It sounds like you're taking bits and pieces that make it sound really, really familiar. But it is spot on, dude. Like I mean, just listening to it, I was like, this guy, I would just talk like that 24/7.
Yeah. And I actually can. I've been doing it so long that it just kind of comes out. It's second nature. I don't really have to warm up for it anymore. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, especially with the like you were saying with the Arnold impression, a lot of people use it. So it's different when it comes to just being able to do like, the general things that people think of. They think of like the heavy Austrian accent, like people think of that. Like that's usually what people end up doing, and they just keep that same tone the entire impression. But the thing about people like Joe Gaudette, he has everything down about the guy. Like he's like he has his pitch down, his range down, and how he speaks. Just him speaking normally, not even acting. Like he's just like doing like a general conversation in Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. And if you close your eyes, you're like, oh my God, am I talking to the former governor of California right now? Like, is this really happening? So, that's just, there's a difference between being able to do that. I call it doubling. And he also calls it doubling as well. Instead of just a straight up impression, you really sound like the actual person. This hard differentiation between the real thing and then what this other person is able to do. That's what I think, really brings in that acting prowess, being able to do something like that.
There was a really good podcast, and I totally forgot his name of the actor who was on it, but there's two famous comedians that used to do a podcast called The Crab Feast, and they had a guy on there that does voice acting professionally, and he was talking about it being like a muscle, much like we're talking about, and he would say like, "Oh, I haven't done that one forever. I can't remember how it would go." And it was like one of his first impressions is like, "Hold on, how do you just be able to do somebody's voice and then forget it?" And I'm like, "It's because you have to stay practiced with it. If you're someone that wants to commit to such as yourself doing like a Wolverine role or doing specific Marvel characters, even though you're trying to sound close by it, you're still staying on top of it. You're practicing it probably every day. You're probably doing, you're staying on, you're not just leaving it alone for a year and then trying to pick it up later. Like my buddy always tells me, he goes, dude, your Jerry Seinfeld impression would be amazing if you just worked on it. I'm like, I fucking hate Jerry Seinfeld. The fact that I can do he's not a bad guy. I heard he's nice, but it's the voice. It's like, I mean, what's the deal with airplane food? I mean, is it food? Is it an airplane? I don't know. It's like I could definitely work on that and get it to a better range, but it's close. But it's like I don't like it. I just don't like hearing it. I don't like studying it. It kind of sucks I've been able to do it. But like ones I really found fascinated with, like Christopher Walken, for example. A lot of people always talk about like that's the hardest impression to pull off. But for me, it was just like, oh my, this is tragic news. Wasn't planning on a trip to the market today, but I guess a trip to Trader Joe's is in my future. Like, that's pretty good, right?
That's spot on. That's pretty good, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks for people in my household because I will start narrating that. And then you find that if you do it for too long, you can't get out of Christopher Walken. It ends up turning into an all day event where it's hard to go to the store. It's hard to find yourself anymore. You end up sitting in the shower, kind of curled up like a ball. Like, am I Christopher Walken? I don't know.
Yeah, you get lost in the character after a little while. Yeah, I understand. I've especially early on, I would go to the store with my girlfriend and I would just pull on this southern panhandling accent and I would just walk by people and be like, "Oh, excuse me," and be like, "Oh, excuse me, ma'am, I gotta get through. I gotta go find my daughter. I don't know where she's running around in this damn store," and just be like that. Just go around and it's just after a while you don't realize like, oh crap, I've been doing this for like an hour. I should probably stop. This is probably getting annoying. Uh, yeah, so it's just one of those things where, like you said, it is a muscle, so you have to get it warmed up. Every morning I'm stretching, even physically. Like you have to physically stretch. Like my neck and my shoulders are always very tight from, working out and stuff like that. So I really got to stretch it because if you have a loose neck and a loose shoulders and everything else, and you're relaxed, you'll be able to really act better. Because if you're all tight physically, you're going to be tight and you're going to sound tight when you're voicing these characters. So, you really got to be able to properly take care of your voice just like you do your body.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even take in that into consideration. I had a voice actor on here before, and she was telling me like what she has to do, like methods to avoid sore throats, to avoid like if she gets sick, she's got to be able to try and make sure she stays on top of her and keeping her immune system up because that if she messes with her voice, she screams too hard at like a baseball game or something, she's out of work. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah,
Like
for sure.
a lot of people don't even realize that. Like I remember someone I knew, he played guitar. He grabbed his fist and punched a wall and almost broke his hand, and then he couldn't play guitar. I'm like, that's how you make your money. Like, do you not understand? Like, you got to prioritize things here. Like, when you use a skill such as having a good vocal range or maybe being able to play soccer really, really well, if you break your feet or you get your foot chopped off to diabetes, it's going to be hard to play soccer one-legged.
Yeah, exactly. So, when it comes to stuff like that, like stay away from, I'm sure you probably heard her when she was on there, caffeine, alcohol, stuff that dries out your voice. I mean, you can have those things. It's not like you have to not have them anymore. It's just not right before a session or during a session. Definitely not during a session. No coffee, nothing like that.
You probably stay away from any carbonated beverages too. It probably you end up getting the hiccups halfway through an
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So me, it's just water all the time. Um, you got to stay hydrated because anybody with a trained ear in the industry, which if you're in the industry, you probably have one, you'll hear a dry mouth from a mile away. So you got to be able to stay loose, stay hydrated, be ready all the time. And
Dude,
it's difficult when life gets in the way. So
I come across so many conversations a day. You can always tell when someone has like a really dry mouth or when they're nervous because they're just like turning into ASMR. I'm like, bro, do you need a sip of water, man? Like I can hear it's dry. It sounds like I'm hearing dust come out or something. It's
yeah,
It gets difficult because I mean, there's so many things, especially that go through your mind when you're trying to be able to display something, especially do something, especially for a commercial. Like you're trying to narrow down so many things too. There's a lot of pressure and anxiety that gets puts on you, and that can affect your vocal range as well.
Yeah, being able to stay calm, cool, and collected is difficult, especially when you're in an actual studio and you have the director trying to give you pointers on how he wants this. And it's sometimes I mean, not sometimes, a lot of the times he'll just have you give a read. Your first read is just feeling it out, and it may be a script that you've never seen before, and that's nerve wracking because you're looking at the script and you're like, I didn't have time to pick this apart. I didn't have time to see where pauses should be, where I should be, ending with, a higher pitch at the end of the sentence or a lower pitch or anything like that. You don't have time to do that. And then, you got to take the director's direction, afterwards. And you got to really just kind of figure out what he wants, but also sounding genuine at the same time. And that's that ground where you really have to find yourself when you're in that situation. And it's really difficult. It's a lot harder than it looks,
It's definitely harder because you're not moving around, you're not doing the scene, you're not getting into it as much. This is like you're in a small confined space and you're doing an animation picture or something. You have to act like what would that character be feeling? You have to try and move like that character, but it's a lot different. Like when you're seeing an actor on a screen, for instance, such as like doing a sitcom. If you're sitting there drinking shots at a bar or something, you're doing the motions and all this thing. You're like, yeah, I'm getting a little bit tipsy, like that. You get into that thing, you get into that phrase, and you can display a lot with what your body is. A lot of people are very imagery, but when they're looking at a cartoon animation like Rick and Morty or something, like, come on, Morty, let's go do like whatever, that whole thing, like you have to do it yourself, but you're not being shown. So you have to sit there and kind of match the character's actions and also what he would be sounding like based on like the pitches. Like when you're talking, if I do like, I think that's it, and I just added emphasis on my voice. So then that like there's silence after that. But then like changing pitches, like, do I really know? Like that adding that high pitch up to it creates a whole different effect in a conversation, and people just completely gloss over that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways you can read a copy or anything like that, and being able to work with the director and find that right take is difficult. I mean, because you may think that your first or your second take were your best ones, and then in the reality, the director thinks that your last two were better. So it all kind of depends on what the listener thinks. Ultimately, with the director's decision, that's what you got to go with. So whether you think that he's wrong or not, it doesn't matter. He's paying you, so that's usually what ends up happening. But what I found with a lot of the stuff, because I'm doing, like I said, a lot of fan stuff, not some stuff paid, some stuff unpaid. Just still trying to get into it with this, and I get more freedom, and I think that's nice with character work because especially with Wolverine, I know what he looks like. You know what I mean? And being able to see the character helps a lot. Even a character that I've never voiced before, I've never heard a voice of. It's something that's original. Somebody created like like a monster or something like that. I got to look at that monster and think, how would this guy sound? How would he breathe? What would be his mannerisms? What kind of sounds would be coming from his his stomach, or what sounds would he make when he moves around? Stuff like that. That helps being able to have a visual aid. But when it comes to commercials, you don't have that. You usually just get like, it'll say male 20s, warm, heartfelt voice. It's like, that doesn't really help me, but okay, I'll try to do that.
All right, I gotta ask now. I've done some impressions. I gotta hear your Wolverine, man.
Oh, okay. All right. So this is why you want me on the show. I got you. You just want me on here for the Wolverine voice. No, I'm kidding.
I gotta use it while I got it too. I saw that and I was like, is this Clint Eastwood acting like Wolverine? I don't know.
Oh yeah, those are cool. That's I like doing some of those because he could definitely pull off those. Those two characters are very similar. Let me actually, because I can't even hear myself with this headset on.
So what do you want to hear? Do you want to hear me say like a signature line, or what do you want to hear?
If you could narrate or say out of the blank, I'd probably shit my pants.
Say out of the blank?
Yeah.
Welcome to Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Robbie.
That is so dope, dude. Oh my God. I don't know how you work at a bank. Anytime they would roll up to the drive-thru, like, do you want to deposit? I'm like, oh shit. Oh, Wolverine is my bank teller. Holy hell.
Y- yeah. It's there's some of the people I'm like,
Get out of here, bub. I don't want to see you anymore.
like it's just some of these people, man. They just come in and oh man, I deal with some of the lowest of the low at this bank, but
So who else can you do besides Wolverine? Like I know you heard my Christopher Walken. I can also do Scooby pretty well.
oh, you can do Scooby. Let me hear you, Scooby.
Reggie.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah, like I said, I don't do many impressions, but I can do like a scary demonic voice if you want something like that. You want
Yes,
something
give
in
me a demon.
You want to hear a demon, someone that will haunt your nightmares.
or something like that.
Yeah, see
I
that
don't know. What do you
what's
think about
interesting
that?
is like we talk about a person and maybe hitting their like octave ranges. Like I don't know if you've ever heard the comedian Joey Diaz.
Yes.
Okay, everybody can do a Joey Diaz impression because like you cocksucker, like that whole thing. That's what he says. He talks like with this Jersey kind of like deep kind of grudgy voice, and then like there's some people that have like a really common voice that's able to be hit, but like it's all about your range pitches as well. Like you ask somebody like what impressions or what you can do, it's all in their vocal range. Some people can hit a higher range frequency, and some people can hit a lower. Wolverine, like you just did, is similar to a demon because it's that whole like they're demons. It's just that deep, like grudgy type voice. Like you're hitting like the one flaps of your vocal cords. It's hard to explain it. It's more easy to do it, like once you know how to do it. But like it's weird when you hit like a demon or that weird bass part. I don't. It's like your vocal flaps or something. It's like trying to split it, and you wanted to get them the reverb a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's. I mean, with a lot of the demon deep voices, there is like a natural reverb that kind of comes out. But I could do like higher pitched, squeaky voices, stuff
Elmo,
like,
Elmo,
huh?
Elmo.
Elmo? No, I can't do Elmo.
Hi,
Uh,
my name's Elmo.
yeah, I don't do. I can be like, I can go all the way up here, like stuff like that. Like that's how high I could probably go. That's like the
Dude,
highest I can go. Or I could
I
do like,
used to do an amazing meat wad, man. I used to love Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I could be able to do a meat wad pretty. I have to go and listen to it again, man. But I used to do it so
yeah, that's that's pretty good though. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of the stuff is just creating characters, like doing like a maniacal character or something like that. It's similar to like the Joker, talking like that, or um,
good. That
you
was
know,
really good.
yeah. So it's but like it's another thing where it's not Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill is the guy, and I don't want to sound like Mark Hamill. I want to still sound like me. So my whole big thing is I don't get caught up on trying to sound like somebody. I'll take inspiration from somebody
Yeah.
else and then create.
Well, it's the style of it too. Like my Joker impression sounds a lot like oh God, it's gonna my dad's gonna beat me up if I don't get this name right. I'm trying to forget what his name is. He passed away too. Keith
Oh, Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger, yes. Okay, so Heath Ledger's like, you want to know how I got these scars? My father, he was a bit of a drinker.
It's
Like
pretty good.
it's like even saying that you hear my like if you saw my face, you'd be like, you're fucking nuts. Because
Yeah,
like
like you're licking your lips. Yeah.
I'm licking my lips, but I'm like looking like eyes up, like head angled down, looking in the corner, but doing like that, like and then like the whole like pause and like that kind of like the long like dramatic effect that the Joker's really good at, which was like different with like if you saw the new Joker, for instance, like it was different. He was a lot more like had that sense of like I'm on the edge about to snap, like it was a person that's about to snap. They
Yeah.
never really showed the Joker from that angle before. They've always shown him already snapped.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's love that movie, by the way. Love that movie. I saw it in theaters and I walked out and there was people like that did not understand it at all. They're like, oh my God, like this is horrible because I guess all the violence and everything like that. But I was like, if you don't know who the character is, then you're not going to appreciate the movie.
Yeah, that's why Jim Carrey, before all of his roles, would get like immersed into it. Like he would want you to, call him all that. Like when he did the Grinch or something, he went all out. He's a very good impressionist, Jim Carrey. But I've heard a lot of like bad things like about him a little bit when it comes to the line of like he does fall into character, then he just doesn't get out of character, which is hard to do. But when you solidify yourself as an actor for a role, that's the whole point. Like, you're getting paid to be this thing. You have to be 100% that. There really can't be an off switch.
Yeah. So I know that especially I know he with a mask and with I know with the Grinch he kept it too. I'm trying to think of other characters where he kept it. Oh, Cable Guy, where he kept a lisp the entire time on set. That's just like, I mean, I grew up watching Jim Carrey, and I'm fascinated by the guy. I mean, just the stuff that he can do with his face alone, just the way he contorts his face, is just amazing.
Well, that's stutter too, man. I mean, that whole thing with the Cable Guy and all that. Like, he was like, "Well, Jim, seems like we got ourselves at a standoff here." Like, just
Yeah,
he has his whole lower part of his jaw pushed forward, like where you're focusing on the front bottom parts of your teeth. And like, let's talk about Paul Giamatti, for instance. A lot of people don't really look at his acting career that much. Like, it seems like he just kind of disappeared. Dude, in Lady in the Water, that stutter was 100% his own.
yep,
Like, that whole like that whole thing, like, oh, it's like, whoa, 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 like, is that real? Like, it was so like natural flowing too, and how difficult it is to be able to master that. Like, a lot of people, and then like you look at so many actors like Andrew Lincoln that plays the Walking Dead, like Rick Grimes and all that. Like, nobody understands. He's British, but he
yep.
sounds American. You heard him talk for the first time, like, excuse me, this is not the guy that's like, girl.
Yeah, with that southern Georgia accent that he has going on. Yeah, that's just, it's amazing. I mean, what people can do just with their voice alone is amazing. So that's why I give a lot of credit to people like that are from England or from a different country, and then they totally just become somebody else and they sound native speaking almost. And it just amazes me. It's something that I would love to do one day.
All right, I gotta give us both a challenge here, so we're both gonna do something.
Oh no.
Okay, I will edit it out if it sounds terrible, but more than likely, I'm probably going to keep it in because I feel like we're both going to do pretty good at it or laugh our ass off. So I want to do Wolverine talking to Christopher Walken.
Okay.
So I'm putting myself on the spot here too. So it's not just random. I want to do it like, what type of scene would you be able to do Wolverine in? I don't want to do them fighting. I want to do them like sitting down and having a coffee or something.
Sitting down having a coffee. I mean, you can have them at a bar. I can
That's
see that happening.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, and do you want to start it off, or do you want me to start it off?
Well, I feel like Wolverine would probably already be at the bar, probably drinking heavily at this time, and then Christopher Walken can kind of just walk in and be like, are you Wolverine? Like, who is this guy? You know?
All right, okay, all right. Shit, that means I start first. That was kind of
Yeah. You got to start first, man.
All right.
You wanted to do this. You have to lead off.
Oh, damn it! All right, hang on a second. It's gonna take me probably after the first line I say it, I'll end up falling into it. But like, walk up and see Wolverine, be like, "Don't I know you from somewhere?
No.
You remind me of someone I seen on the TV a few."
Listen, pal, if you have a question to ask me, just ask it and then walk away.
Look, no need for the tone. I'll bury your body in a hole if you don't understand what I'm saying to you.
All right, sit down. I'll get you a beer.
I want an appletini.
Get the fuck out of here.
Okay. See, like, it's crazy because like when you look at Wolverine, it's mostly about aggression. It's mostly about keeping that tense kind of bass in your voice. And then when you look at Christopher Walken, for me, I'm just like, what the fuck does Christopher Walken ever say? Like, it just seems like his mind is always going off on other shit. Like, I went to the store and I bought a bird. I don't know why. I really like cats. It's like the mind just skips off. You know what I mean?
Hey man, I'm loving the voice though. It's great. It's one of the better ones I've heard in a while. Because a lot of people try to do it. It's really good. Got to
Thank
give
you.
you props on it.
I appreciate it, man. I love the Wolverine too. I tried for so long to be able to get Morgan Freeman down, but I ended up stop doing it. I really just try, like, if I'm gonna do an impression, end up doing like Christopher Walken, but like Morgan Freeman's like, ever since I was a little boy, people have enjoyed the sound of my voice, and either you get busy talking or you get busy dying.
Yeah, my younger cousin is he's pretty good at doing a Morgan Freeman. but yeah, that's something I couldn't do. And it's one of those things. He's like, oh, you're a voice actor. You could be able to try. He's like, at least try. But it's just one of those things where if I know I can't do it, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I could play around with it, but at the same time, me being able to do Morgan Freeman is probably not going to get me more jobs. So I'm going to just stick with what I'm good at and build from there.
I can also do the Arby's guy. We have the meats.
Oh boy, go ahead.
Oh crap.
So now you're like, oh, I can do it. I'm
All
like,
right,
oh, you got to do it
all
now.
Here you go. Arby's, we have the meats.
It's pretty good, man.
That one, and then I really like Sam Elliott's like doing the Silverado trucks by Silverado.
That man is badass. I'd love
Dude,
to meet that man in person.
my cousin used to be babysitted by Sam Elliott.
No way.
That's what I said, and he starts walking away like it's a normal fucking thing. And I'm like, excuse me, you're not walking away from me telling me that you were babysitted by Sam Elliott? And he goes, yeah, dude, he's just a person, man. People become famous, dude. That's just what happens. He goes, he's just an average cool guy. And I'm like, yeah, but it's Sam Elliott. And I'm like, all right, I guess I get it. Then he goes, I also met Ric Flair in an airport. I'm like, hold on. Stop walking away. You're meeting some cool ass people. He had at one point in his life, he was going to marry into money. Like he he loved this girl and figured out that she was like rich. And they were doing like $8,000 dinners. Was like that's chump change. Like they were flying private jets everywhere. And he ended up breaking up with her. He's like, I just don't like money, man. I don't care about money. I care about connection. I'm like, bro, you married that thing for $80,000. Like, are you nuts? You're flying private jets anywhere.
Oh my god, that's crazy though. Being babysat by Sam Elliott. I mean, I can't imagine that. I mean, especially if you get into trouble, he's telling you to go to bed. I mean, just hearing that voice, like, okay, whatever you want, sure.
Let me touch the mustache. I'll go right to bed.
Yeah.
Well, it's with impressions too. Like I find like I've tried doing a little bit more of like Al Pacino and stuff, where it's kind of just yelling. It's like, oh, like do something like that. But I do love accents, man. I used to, we talk about actors that immerse themselves in the environment to be able to pick up a certain language. Like if you start to notice, you start talking around people that have an accent, you start to pick up their accent without even needing to do so.
Yeah. That's I actually moved to North Carolina for a few years for school, and I'm from Long Island, so my accent started to disappear. So people were there, and I was at work, and people were like, "Oh, where are you from?" I was like, "I'm from Long Island." And now you hear it, you're probably like, "Oh my god, it's very heavy." But they were like, "No, I have no idea where you're from. I would never know that you're from New York." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Okay, well this is good." And then slowly but surely, I started to say y'all and stuff like that. I was like, nope, can't do this. So then I moved back home.
It's crazy though, because like if you look, like we talk about accents, you would immediately think like a different country or something, you know what I mean? But states can have accents. Like New York has a specific accent. Mostly it's people yelling at each other. But like when you go to like Boston's like, let me get a pastrami on rye. Let me get that pastrami, and then like you fall into it. And then like if you look at like my family's from Baltimore. I'm grown in like Maryland. How do you say Monday?
Monday.
Okay. Sometimes I'll say Monday or Tuesday. Like there's TOOSE. And it's like, that's how it is. It's like you randomly get picked up. It's like, how did we develop this and they don't, instead of saying Baltimore, it's Baltimore. Like there's no D. What are you doing? It's like you cut down words, but it's all developed on the area that you grow up in. Like my cousins are in Hawaii. They were born and raised there. They, well, not born and raised. They were just raised there. They've been there probably their whole entire life, basically. They moved there when they were little, but they have an accent called pidgin, and it's basically cutting your words in half. It's like, hey man, are you hungry? Would you like a snack? I'm full on aloha, thank you. It's like, what did you just say to me? I'm full on aloha, thank you, brother. It's like, are you a mix between a Jamaican and like a European? I'm not understanding this one.
Yeah, that's a new one. I haven't really I haven't heard that. No, but yeah, like you said, there's different accents everywhere. I mean, especially with my Long Island accent. The big thing is like, I mean, especially when you're in the South Shore, you hear like the AW with a lot of the words, like dog. And I gotta go to the mall, like stuff like that. Like you'll hear that AW just unnecessarily in there. Or like even saying, off, you'd be like, off, I gotta turn off the car. Like stuff like that. It's just so unnecessary and so stereotypical, but it's real. It's a real accent, especially when I hear some of these people from the South Shore. Some of my South Shore friends, I hear them, I'm like, where the hell? Like, why do you talk like that? Like, get the hell away from me. Like, I don't sound like this. Like, people think I sound like you when I say I'm from Long
Hey,
Island,
hey,
but
where
I'm
you
not.
from? Where you from?
I'm
Hey,
from Long Island.
where you from? I'm from Long Island. Yeah, out there in the West. It's like, what? You're from the West? Well, it's even like I was talking to I used to work with this couple of Irish kids, and I'll never forget this. I used to do jet skis, and one of the Irish kids, his name's Kevin, got into a jet ski accident out on the water. Someone hit him, and on the radio, all you hear is, Kevin, you got hit. Are you all right? I think I broke me fucking foot. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like dying laughing on the ground. He's like, why are you laughing? Stop laughing at me. Help me. I think I broke me fucking foot. I'm like, oh, your foot, man. And he's like, why were you laughing out? Or he's like, it's like, why are you laughing at me? I was like, dude, I'm sorry. But I started developing his accent after talking to him for a while. He's like, I think I'm going to go to the bar and have a pint. I'm like, I could go for a pint. And you're like, he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, what? He's like, you're copying me. I'm like, I don't mean to. I'm just, your brain starts to click to things that are similar because you try and blend in. That's like the whole thing. Like, it's called, like, you ever heard of foreign accent syndrome?
Yeah.
There's people that can develop like a car accident, and like there's a few reported cases or something where they get a severe head injury and their accent changes forever. There's like a woman that's a 40-year-old English woman, but she speaks like she has a Chinese accent. And people thought they were faking it for the longest time, but there's actually a disconnect with your brain and the language, speech recognition, whatever it is, system in the part of your brain. And it's crazy to see, because when people start picking up things around them, it's because they try and simulate. They try and become similar to the things around them, because that's how we learn to adapt and survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, it's just interesting, voices in general, around the rounds of frequencies, amount of just so much out there. What accents can you do pretty good? Can you do like a Canadian accent? Can you do?
Mostly just different kinds of Southern accents. It's just, I'm going to be honest with you right now. I can't even hear myself through the headset, so it just sounds funky to me right now. I sound like all muffled because I'm using this other microphone. I mean, like I said, it's just, I do like a Florida panhandling kind of accent, or like if you want to do like a Savannah accent, it's more of like a Savannah accent.
It's adding that Vienna.
Yeah. There's different kinds of Southern accents that
talk
come out.
About a little boot scooting boogie.
Yeah, some of them are slower, some of them are faster, man. Like, yeah, I mean, I got to go home right now. My wife's gonna kick the shit out of me. Like, I got to get my ass home, get my truck, and go home. Like, come on. Like, there's different kinds of pace and sounding to the words. Sometimes it's more drawn out depending on where it's supposed to be from, and that's just like you said, listening and trying to imitate. That's, to me, when it comes to accents, that's what I try to do. I try to listen and imitate while also trying to maintain my voice. I still don't want to sound like I'm from New York, but I got to try to maintain that natural vibe to the voice. You don't want to sound fake. You want to sound real.
I've been trying to do a thing for like a while, like past couple of years. Whenever I go into a store, just pick up an accent and try and hold it the whole entire time. It makes it difficult. Like, you randomly drop it and they're like, what happened to your accent? I'm like, what? Like, you were faking it, weren't you? I'm like, oh yeah. Or like the Irish one is like, it's like, hi little Letty, welcome to the Irish pub. Like, it's like that whole like kind of like higher pitch, especially if you're gonna do like a leprechaun or something. And when you go to Scottish, it's like, I get me some haggis on my kilt. Like, it's having that whole like grind to your voice, like the little kind of like the really kind of groundy reverb to it. And,
yeah.
Canada, it's like, it's a little bit of like, I'm from Canada, man, eh? Like, it's like adding the A. Like, if I can do it enough, I can handle it down pretty well. But, like, even I've talked to so many people from all over the globe. I've talked, especially with Australian people. Like, those are a majority of people I've talked to from another country. It's very difficult to, in a conversation, to be able to hold your own accent while hearing theirs so strong, because it's so thick. It's cutting. It's like when you're sitting there talking to them, it's like, I mean, what do you mean, mate? Like, like it ended up being like, that's a knife. This is a knife. Like, you end up doing shit like that. And the dude's like, what are you doing? And even he was telling me, like, one time, my buddy, Daniel Craig, he was telling me, he was like, dude, I don't know why I'm trying to do an American accent right now. I'm like, yeah, what's happening? Why are we stealing each other's accents right now?
Yeah, it's an Australian accent is definitely very, very, very thick. It's unmistakable when you hear people like Hugh Jackman naturally talk. That's another thing that shocked people when they heard Hugh Jackman speak. They're like, "Holy shit! Like, where's this guy from?" They're like, "Oh, he's from Australia."
Oh,
And I was like, "Yeah, we have an Australian guy. That's Wolverine. That's exactly what it is."
I'm over there from Australia. And come over here from the east. I can't even, I'm not even going to attempt to do that one right now. I'm already stuck in Christopher Walken mode. I just want to go back to it.
Oh, go ahead, man. Finish the podcast as Christopher Walken. That'd be impressive.
Look, I mean, like, what do you want to end up doing with this? Like, do you want to end up moving from commercials to maybe doing comic book characters, or maybe doing 3D, like more of animation styles type stuff? Because I really love animation. I think like that would be definitely a cartoon route I could go down.
Yeah, I mean, I love to do mostly character work, but in reality, there's so many people that are trying to do character work. I mean, the industry is just saturated with voice actors now, especially now with with the internet and everything like that, and now that people will be able to do stuff from home. There's just so much competition, and competition is a great thing. It brings out the best in everybody, I think. But you got to be able to be versatile. So I think being able to do commercial work, even for stuff like for pharmaceutical companies, radio spots, little short commercial spots, boring stuff. You got to be able to do that too, because in reality, that's what's going to pay the bills. You're not always going to land, a character and land an audition, get casted as that character, and be in that show for 12 seasons. Like you don't know how it's going to go. It'd be great if you're on the show and then you have it for a few years, but in reality, once it's over, you got to have something else. So you got to be able to do a little bit of everything. That's just how I personally feel. And even people like Steve Bloom, who is known for his characters, he does commercial stuff. You got to be able to do it, whether they're small, large, whatever. You got to be able to do that as well, because you got to pay the bills. It's a job. So it's all fun being able to do all these things, but you got to make a living somehow.
I want you to sell me a pack of Tampax as Wolverine.
Oh my god.
I want to hear it.
Pack of Tampax? You couldn't pick
All right.
beer
Do
or
you want
something?
Tampax, or you want? Sell me toothpaste. How about that?
Toothpaste. I'll you know what? I'll do the Tampax. I
I'm
won't
stuck
be.
on teas. Damn it! I don't know
I,
how to get off of teas. I can't think of
I'll do
anything
the
else.
I'll do the Tampax. I won't be a baby about it.
Take it from me. When you start bleeding, it's hard to stop. Use Tampax.
No way. That is the best one-liner. Tampax, pick that up, dude. Holy
Oh
shit.
man,
Can you sell me Honey Smacks as Wolverine?
Honey Smack, your favorite cereal, right? I'm pretty sure I heard
Thank
that once
you.
before.
Thank you. Yes, I almost got salmonella from it. Finally, somebody's listening.
How the hell did that happen?
They had an outbreak at one point, and I'm just too, you spend $5 on a box of cereal. Fuck it. Salmonella is the least of my concerns. I'm worried about my bank account at that point. I'm going to eat the damn box.
Oh man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never had them before.
You are, oh God, where do you live? I'll send you a box. I already got this one dude that does a cereal reviews while he's high. His name is High Spoon. You can check him out on Instagram. Shout out to him. But he is in Canada and they don't have Honey Smacks over there. And I said, I will send you a box of Honey Smacks. It's going to be $40 in postage, but I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I'm from Long Island. I'm from New York, so I've never even seen them. I haven't even seen a box. I have to look it up at this point to know what it is. What kind of cereal is it? If I'm going to do this commercial, I got to get the aspect right. Is it crunchy? Is it
Okay? Imagine it's the original Gold Puffs, or there's that Gold Puff cereal with the bear on it. It's the original that, but there's a frog on the front. It's honey and those little puff sweet corn things.
puff sweet corn things?
Yes.
Okay.
You don't know the Golden Puffs with the bear?
I haven't had it. So like I said, I'm more of I was Cocoa Pebbles. That was me growing up. Cocoa Pebbles.
Oh, you get the Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, Fred Flintstone on the cover.
Okay.
That and Count Chocula. That was my jam.
That was diabetes for children.
Yes, it was. And I was a really chunky kid, so that probably didn't help.
I was too, man. Count Chocula was my shit, and then they really made it kind of better when they added the cereal straws, and you're just like, I'm not even being able to drink my milk because I'm just eating the straw at this point before I can even. I have to go through 6 straws till I can finish my glass of milk.
So Honey Smacks. All right. As Wolverine, man, you're putting me on the spot with these weird things. All right.
You can ask me to do one. I'll do a commercial.
You can do a commercial. Oh, you'll do some Christopher Walken ones. All right. All right.
Are you tired of the same old shit when it comes to eating cereal? Boring Cheerios, boring, I don't know, Fruity Pebbles. What kind of person wants to have fruit for breakfast? Not me. I'd rather have beer, but whatever. Honey Smacks, that is a cereal. That is something worth dying
That is my
for.
voicemail forever. That is definitely something I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life. And you might have completed like a final bucket list item for me. I can probably die in peace.
You're welcome.
All right. So Christopher Walken is going to sell. What is he going to sell? All right. You're selling furniture, but not just any kind of furniture. Furniture for hamsters.
Damn, dude. This is like, whose line is it anyway? Like, let me just toss out some specific shit. Hold on a second. Furniture for hamsters. What kind of furniture do hamsters? Holy shit. I can sell IKEA furniture as Christopher Walken. That's not hard at all. It's half of the shit's put together already. Buy the floor model. Furniture for hamsters. Welcome to Petco. What are you looking for? Maybe a water feeder for a little gerbil, or maybe a rodent of smaller proportions, or you're buying a hamster wheel. You keep on running, doesn't know where he's going. He just keeps on doing, the spin on the wheel. I don't know. It's like it's the best I could do.
Oh man, I'm disappointed. No, that was good, man. That was good.
I can't think of any hamster furniture. I've never owned a hamster. I heard they die after like 2 days. I'm like, I don't want that shit. I'd rather get a goldfish that dies after an hour.
It was years ago. We had goldfish that got huge. We actually had to transfer them to our freshwater pond. That's how big they got. Tiny little fish in a bag. They got
feeder
huge.
fish. I had an experience with a pond, and I was like, why are these fish so cheap? And he's like, they're only like 5 cents because they're feeder fish. You feed them to bigger fish. And I'm like, well, what happens if I just let these things grow? He goes, they can go to be like 13 inches. I'm like, what? He's like, why aren't people just give me 100 of those things? Dude, I put them in a pond. They grew enormous.
Yeah, they get really big. I mean, we had them mixed in with koi fish, and they were just all hanging out.
Dude, I have said the pond story in this podcast. I don't know where it was at, but if you find it, I don't know. That was an experience for sure. But it's we had kois at one point too. I mean, that was an experience on its own. And kois hibernate. I never even knew that.
Oh yeah, I mean, when we made the pond, we dug it deep enough into the ground that when the winter came around, the top would freeze over, but they'd still be able to live underneath there. So they'd be living throughout the winter, and then once everything thawed out, they'd be fine. We never had to transfer them into the tank.
I bonded with my koi fish because he liked Honey Smacks.
He liked Honey Smacks.
He wouldn't eat koi fish food, so they were like, you can feed him like bran flakes or something that gives him like the essential nutrients and fibers. And I'm like, what about Honey Smacks? Like, if he can eat bran flakes, he can eat fucking Honey Smacks. So I just tossed Honey Smacks in there. He ate it. He really, really enjoyed it, and he was actually pretty snobby about it too. Like, he would not let anybody else eat any of the Honey Smacks. So I was like, that's my son. All right. Well, I really appreciate you, Mark, coming out and doing the podcast, man. I guarantee you it probably wasn't what you were expecting.
No, I mean, it's definitely laid back. I really enjoy the atmosphere of it all. I mean, anything that you can kind of just go off the cusp and have a conversation, that's something worth listening to. I like the Joe Rogan podcast. I love that guy. I can sit and listen to his podcast all day long.
Now, let me tell you about DMT. But it was awesome having you on, man. Is there anything you want to promote, such as like your Instagram page, such as maybe some of your voice acting work that people can follow you, maybe support you a little bit too?
Yeah, I mean, my name is Mark Filipe. If you're interested, contact me at my email, markfilipeva@gmail.com for any kind of character work, commercial work, anything like that. Or check out my Instagram, That Wolverine Guy, for just specific Wolverine lines. Whatever you want to hear, DM me and I'll do it.
Does it have to be specific Wolverine? Can you do maybe Tom Holland?
Tom Holland. Do you want me to do Tom Holland?
Can you do a Spider-Man version? I really like Tobey Maguire. People say I look like Tom Holland, and I hate that guy. But
yeah, I don't know if I could do a Tobey Maguire. I could do like a younger guy. I can have a younger sound to my voice, but I don't know if I can sound like the great Tobey Maguire. crying and everything like that. In
Dude,
the
that
third
was the
movie.
best Spider-Man, man. I'm sorry. People
I'm
that sit there.
sorry, but yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the third one was just too much crying, way too much crying for me. I was like, "You're Spider-Man."
Andrew Garfield was a mistake. It's okay, people. We can move on past it. All right, we understand. But Tobey Maguire is the original Spider-Man in my mind. Now, are you looking at your phone screen right now?
No, I am not.
Look at your phone screen real quick. Are you looking at your phone screen? Or are you looking? What are you on right now? Are you on your computer or are you on your phone?
I'm on my computer.
All right, look at your computer screen real quick.
Okay.
Now look where it has my picture.
Where is
Now,
your picture?
when I say I look like Tom Holland, tell me if I look like Tom Holland. Ready?
Where do I get your picture on here?
Wait for it.
Oh boy.
I look like Tom Holland, don't I?
Holy shit. You really look like Tom Holland. Oh my god.
Yeah. Who's who? He's on the airplane. I'm in
Yeah,
the-
well, I know that. Yeah.
But yeah, see, I get that all the time, and I honestly hate that guy. But no, I liked Tobey Maguire. I forgot to tell you, I could do a Richard Nixon impression.
Go for it.
All right, from the Futurama version, it's like, it's what is it? Oh, I'm not a crook.
Oh, you got Curly in there too, man.
Freaking Zoidberg, bruh.
Oh, Zoidberg. See, I was thinking Curly from the Three Stooges.
Curly. Oh, that's true. That's similar too. Look, there we go. We talk about vocal ranges being similar.
Yeah.
Because the Jello and the pudding and then the
Oh,
pudding.
Bill Cosby coming
Wow.
out. Oh, the kids in my basement. Feed them the pudding and they'll go to sleep.
We'll see you. Woo. This is just where the end of the podcast gets kind of silly. Fat Albert's a good one too. Hey.
Yeah, you got a lot of characters in there, man. Maybe voice acting's for you.
If I try enough, I can. Like, I just sit there as a kid and just practice. It's weird. It's kind of weird talking to yourself. It feels better talking to someone about it, so you don't seem so much like a freak, like a person talking on their Bluetooth. And you like, I hope they're having a Bluetooth conversation rather than just talking to themselves, because that's nuts.
Yeah, that's true. But
Well,
then again, I tell myself all the time, or I tell other people that I give myself the best advice. So I like talking to myself. No, I'm just kidding.
well, take it from me. I'm Mark Wahlberg. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, yeah, Mark Wahlberg.
Hey,
Yeah. You want to buy a car?
You want to?
Good. No, go fuck yourself. All right.
Yeah, that's like with Ted's. Like, you want to buy one of them cars? Well, I really appreciate you, Mark, coming out and doing the podcast. And thank you for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank. If anybody was out there listening, liked any of my impressions or like any of his impressions, just hit up Mark, because Mark's voice acting and obviously doing everything that's better than me when it comes to just badass voices. That Wolverine impression was sweet, and I'm definitely going to have to pull that soundbite for the Honey Smacks thing, because that just made my day.
All right, man. Yeah, thank you for having me on here.